It's a bit hard to believe that we're now in the midst of fall. Well, trust me, here in Florida, it doesn't feel like fall. In fact, today, we actually had the Hurricane Helene move up our coast on the west side, and she's still out there tonight. This is the tail end. I am luckily tucked in the middle of the state, nice and cozy, in a place that's really just getting a bit of wind and a little touch of rain. So it's a fairly safe place for someone who has to live in Florida. And so I'm thankful that as long as I keep my power tonight, fingers crossed, I believe that we'll be through this very soon. My only concern is power. That's one of my biggest concerns when I know that I'm not really going to be fully impacted by a hurricane or a storm like that. I'm always worried about my power, but I'm safe and sound. But since we are moving into fall, I have a little project that I'm working on that's in time with the season. So if you've never heard of it, it's called Inktober. Every October in the social media world, there is a event called Inktober. There's actually a true website for Inktober, and there are artists all across social media that celebrate it by doing ink drawings and drawing daily. Now, along with that, Inktober, the actual website, has their own list of prompts for every single day. And if you didn't like their prompts, there's lots of other groups that also make other types of prompts. There's a bird prompt list. There's a prompt list for truly just spooky stuff just in the season. And there's tons of them out there if you go looking for hashtag Inktober. If you go to Instagram especially, that's a great way to search, or on Facebook or any place really. You will find lots of Inktober content. I myself have tried Inktober in the past, as many have, and failed because I find it very difficult, as a bit of a rebel, to follow somebody else's prompts. And so I don't even want to share my prompts with you. What I'm doing for myself is I'm going to do it 100% what I want to do every single day. And so I'm putting it all in this little tiny moleskin sketchbook. It's a true moleskin sketchbook. And we'll see how it goes, how successful I am. And I do not like rules, except for real rules that you must apply when it comes to art, like in oil painting, the rule of fat over lean. Unless you want your paint to crack, you need to follow fat over lean, which means you paint very thin layers first, and then you layer on the heavier stuff later, not vice versa. Or there will be consequences that are natural consequences. But man-made consequences I'm not always a fan of, so that's why I'm going rogue and doing my own content. Now this is completely off par with what we normally do on this channel. Usually I am just doing landscapes and observing things from nature or urban sketching type of work. I've done a little bit of oil painting, but usually it's always been from some type of life subject, a true resource. But I have not always, nor do I always, draw from a real resource. I have often in the past drawn from my imagination. And so that's what I'm going to be talking to you about today, because that's all this project will be in this little book, is from my imagination. And I want to talk to you about that. And how can you do that? How can you get that balance of drawing from your imagination? So I'm going to share with you a few resources. Now, historically, I have to explain how I kind of got to where I am at. And I don't know, and hopefully you are not going to be put off by this subject, but I like spooky stuff, but I like for spooky stuff to be light spooky. I don't like, like Friday the 13th and Freddy Krueger. None of that stuff has ever been my thing. I've maybe liked a little bit more of a weird type of scary content. And historically, as a child, I grew up, watching stuff like Godzilla or The Twilight Zone or another Rod Serling production, which was Night Gallery. There was a show called Sixth Sense. In The Sixth Sense, there was this psychic who would go around and would do basically some sleuthing to figure out paranormal sorts of events and solve problems. And so I loved stuff like that growing up. And we watched all kinds of little spooky, lighthearted movies, things like Dracula and all that. And then even when it came to comic books, I often loved comic books that were scary. So I've always been interested in a bit of that. So this is another Moleskine book that I just have doodled in, just so you can quickly see just some quick samples of my random sketches. Now I will say I never meant for anybody to see any of this. This is not anything professional or amazing. They were just doodles for playing. And I have some things covered up for my own benefits, obviously, and privacy. But you can see just random sketches, sometimes just doodles, patterns, watching historic dramas. Sometimes for this one, I was coming home from Ohio and sat next to a young man, and while I did, I sketched in my sketchbook. And it's funny, so I flew back in 2012, so this actually was from a life reference, but notice how there's no screens on the back of these seats. And the seats are actually lower. I thought that was kind of funny. And I remember these little latches for letting down your tray. So, and this also was just at the hairdresser. But then again, back to my imagination. Just random things, anything that strikes me. Sometimes I don't like what I do and I will just paint over it. Just a bit of quirkiness, little ideas I have. Sometimes they're too saccharine-y sweet, I think. I like birds, so there was a bit of that. If I have an idea, I'll just pop it in here. So this is kind of some of stuff that I played for. This was a lino print abstract design that I made, and then I just put in here. Then sometimes I do little things for Christmas. Some illustrations of pirates I just made up. This is just for my own bit of fun. Mermaids and hummingbirds. And then remember we had The Shape of Water that was out a few years ago. I think this is Guillermo del Toro, the director, who does some unusual stuff. So it was Valentine's, so I made like a little Be My Valentine sea creature little illustration from my imagination. But yeah, it's just a bit of fun and a bit of doodles. And sometimes I often do these little designs every Christmas of myself and a pet or something. Anyways, so that's just a quick reference of some of the historic stuff that I've done. Not my best work though. But what I want to share with you before we get started today, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this topic and a few other things, is historically, this is also something, an artist that I was interested in is Edward Gorey. So there used to be a show on PBS. I think it was called, it was Mystery. The show called Mystery on PBS, and the intro to that show was an animation of Edward Gorey's work, which is a bit of that dark sort of a thing. They're quirky, dark, gothic-y. Anyways, I thought his illustrations were really a bit of fun, and so that's why I have this book. Oddly enough, it's actually truly, it's got a book print in here signed by Edward Gorey. So a little book plate. And then, of course, there is Tim Burton. I love a lot of stuff that Tim Burton has done. Again, not every person will like this content, will like will like Tim Burton or has liked Tim Burton. I thought this movie was beautifully done. I love the fact that, he puts together his illustrations and his poetry writing and came up with something so quirky and different. And of course, there's, Danny Elfman, who is the person that wrote the music for The Nightmare Before Christmas. Had to love that and all the music and just Jack in general. I love Jack. In fact, if you've seen my studio, I have a little statue of Jack that I adore. Then more recently, I've been doing a little bit more of the Japanese animation manga type of a book. The comics that they have, the graphic novels that they have. Again, I find myself leaning towards somewhat spooky topics. I find that fascinating. And then anything that's historical is also something I really love. But this is a book that I got recently. It is a combination of this Korean artist that I really like and another artist that paints or draws a lot like him. So this is Kim Jung-ee's drawings on this side. And this is the other artist, the Japanese artist. So the Japanese artist, his name is Terada Katsuya. And Kim Jung-gee is the Korean artist. But their styles are very similar. Since I'm playing with a little bit more pen and ink recently, I've been interested in looking at some of that type of work, that black and white pen work. And Kim Jung-gee was the master, I think, in my personal opinion, of course. I'm going to flip through here very lightly. Let's see if I can flip through here. Try not to show you anything that's compromising because unfortunately sometimes people in this field will show something compromising. But Kim Jung-gee was really good at just doing these compilations of massive scenes, and he could draw just from his imagination or on site quickly. I think it's like a combination of both drawing from your imagination and drawing from what you've seen, different references, and then he just uses his imagination to expand upon it and just allow scenes to really grow. Now, some of this is the Japanese artists. They did a compilation together, a comic together, I believe. Terada, this is Terada's work. And then further in the back, again, all this dragon work has Terada. Then we get into Kim Jung-gee's work. But I wanted something that would give me an idea of that style of work to see if I could somehow learn something from it. And I love how in this one, look, there's a little Godzilla. I don't know if you know, Godzilla, they just had a big anniversary for Godzilla. And so they made a lot of movies. And so I just watched a really interesting, it was a new film. And I think they had it in color and in black and white, showing Godzilla, but the actual story was told like it was back in, I don't know, 1940 or something again. Anyways, it was really, really good. I really enjoyed that a lot. But he's just so super talented. The sad thing is, at the age of, I think he was 49, he passed away a couple of years ago. He had a heart attack. But look how this building back here, it's slightly a wash. It's a lighter gray wash. And then the stuff that's more prominent in the story is a very dark black and white line. So anyways, I got that for that reason. So don't be, don't be timid about expanding yourself to finding other things that might inspire you. And that's why I'm looking at, like I said, a bit of the manga or Japanese graphic novels recently. But that takes me all back to this project, this Inktober project that I'm going to be working on, because it will be all in black and white. And the next time I'm here on YouTube, I'm going to talk about this more. And over on Patreon, I'm going to be giving sneak previews as I go about this process a little bit more to the paid tiers that we have over there. And so either way, whether you're here or over there, you're going to get a glimpse into this. And if you really want to follow me daily, because what I plan to do, I don't know if it'll be daily or every other day, I'm going to post my drawing that I am doing for the day, whether it be daily or every other day. It depends on the page, because some of these pages will be 2 pages and some of them will be 1, so I have to figure all that out. But if you're truly wanting to see that, I'm going to be publishing that over on my stories for Instagram, and I'm going to try to publish them here on YouTube as well. We'll see how that goes. I don't know if it will happen every day. But coming back to imagination. So what I didn't want to do anything that was too dark for today's discussion. And right now you can't really see much of what I've done. But what I have done, so this is a Strathmore mixed media, beige tone, tan toned sketchbook. And I wanted to draw a tree from my imagination, since we are talking about imagination. And so I loosely drew some little quick sketches over here. And I think I'm still going to probably hit them with a bit of pen and ink at some point. And then so that you can definitely see them better, because I know you can't really see them that well since of the color of the paper and the pencil lines are very, very light. These are just quick references for myself, trying to work out something that I thought, well, I wanted to look a little spooky-ish in its shape, and I didn't really know what shape I wanted to go for. So in the end, I kind of went more with this shape, and I've transferred it over here, or expanded upon it over here. Again, it's not exactly the same, because this is like a little thumbnail, and this is what I'm working on today. So let's get started on this. So for my pen and ink work recently, I've been using a few things. I've been using some of my Tombow markers and my Micron pens, and even these brushes here, the Pigma Sensei pens. And then I think for today I'm also going to be using some of my watercolors and gouache possibly. So that's the basic core, because at the most it's probably going to be more on the grayscale range. We'll see. That's my thought, because that's the way I'm going to be going. Since we're doing Inktober next month, it's all going to be grayscale, gray tones, values, and that sort of thing. So let's get started. I'm just going to do a basic outline first. I'm going to use just my microns to begin with. So out of this, I think I'll just be using my microns, my senseis, the Tombows, and I'm probably going to be using a little bit of gouache and watercolor. At least that's my thoughts. Let's see what happens. Alright, so we've got our first level of inking done, and now it's on to the next level of just putting some color on this to make it start to pop. A couple of thoughts on this is, it does not look spooky at this point at all, except for this little gravestone I put down here. And I think the image should have been shifted lower. I'm not as happy about how close I ended up having this to the top, but it's fine. And what else? It looks very illustrated. That's another thing I'm not as happy, is mostly because of my leaf shapes. So again, learning moments. So now we'll just move on to the next part. So I'm doing some final touches now. I'm doing a little nod to Tim Burton in this little illustration of mine by making this gravestone for his little dog Zero from The Nightmare Before Christmas. And thought it would be cute versus making it too macabre. And instead of using a gel pen, which you can use, there's lots of different white variations that you can do, but I chose to do gouache, as I often do. Sometimes I get frustrated with the gel pens because I feel like they get clogged up and stuff. But you have to experiment with what works for you. And in different situations, you would want different things. So just in case you're not familiar with Zero, this is what he looks like. This is Jack Skellington's little ghost dog, Zero. He's got a little pumpkin on his head, on his nose, on the tip of his nose. It's a cute little plastic figurine that I have to commemorate the movie of him and Jack. And there's Jack. My little skeleton statue of Jack that I got quite a long time, so I couldn't tell you where I got it or who made it. coming back to our illustration, often on a toned paper, white can add just a little bit of pizzazz to your work. Just gives it an extra oomph. Go ahead and put this over here in my hand. I really don't normally do too much of it. I just like to do a touch of it. Just adding a little touch of like just a back glow to the side of my tree. And to the, make it look like the grasses are slightly backlit. Just a way to put in a little extra detail. But if you were wondering how you get started doing stuff from your imagination, is you really have to draw often. Oops, I almost messed that up right there. It's about drawing often. And it's often best if you love something. Like let's say you have a cat and you love your cat, or you love a subject and you want to draw it a lot. So you start drawing your cat all the time, and the different poses and the shapes and the wiggles maybe that he makes on the ground. So you do that a bit, but just by observing, and eventually through time you will get to a point where you no longer need your cat to be laying there to draw a cat. You will know innately from your observations and the history of your drawing what a cat looks like. And then often, you know, like in this situation, of course now I was going for a little bit more of an illustrated look. I could have done something for my imagination, but it might have taken additional research if I wanted to have a less illustrated look. But you could even make it look more realistic if you wanted to. And then I feel like in truth, the two worlds can begin to merge, because there's times where you need to, you know, even if you're observing, let's say, a landscape from life, and you need something to get moved, or you need to elaborate, or maybe there's something ugly in your way that you just don't like. You might need to get creative and do something else. And that's a time where you can bring in any skills that you might have developed doing this type of work, just drawing from your imagination. If you started drawing a rose every day, eventually you'd be able to mimic from memory the general look of a rose. And I bet you have a doodle that you do all the time, like let's say a daisy. You know what a daisy looks like, but maybe you've come up with your own little flair of a daisy. It looks maybe slightly illustrated. And that's all that it is. This is when you actually start taking it above and beyond, and then you're doing stuff like this, like on the fly. Like I will just do sketches and like my little thumbnails, and I actually ink them in so you could see them slightly better, but it's, you know, not as sketchy I think as it initially was. But I just wanted to be able to show you what this is kind of developing from. And once you start having these quick doodles, you can start manipulating things, and you can choose to make it realistic or, you know, incorporate it into what you're doing. There's just so many things by this skill. I think it's a good skill to learn as an artist, and not to be intimidated. You're not going to be able to draw something really well from your imagination right off the bat if you haven't practiced this skill. It's like every skill. You have to slowly grow it over time. And then you eventually get to a particular point. Like for me, okay, I drew this tree from imagination for the most part, right? Coming up with my own concept in my mind, sketching it out, and then doing a more elaborate design, and then deciding maybe in some design factors that I want to do, adding in this little element to honor 0. I did all that, but let's just say I wanted to draw a cat on the fly. I would probably struggle. I could probably do like little beanie shapes. I remember how my cat would lay different ways and stuff, but it probably wouldn't look that great because I haven't practiced it that much. I can draw like an illustrated form of people on the fly because I've done that more. There's certain things I can draw from my imaginations. Oh, a horse, forget it. That would be a real struggle. So it depends on what you love and how often you draw stuff. Depends on how good you can get doing it straight from your imagination. That is as far as I got on today's little illustration example. And I hope that you enjoyed that. I hope you got something positive from it. Tell me if you like drawing from your imagination. And let's see, what shall be the word today? How about let's just do 0. 0 will be the final word at the end of the video today that you can put in the comments. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, all those things to help this channel grow. Don't forget, I'm over on Patreon. I know not everybody can afford to be over there. It's just a little extra place to provide content for you and to help me out, because it's actually kind of a difficult thing to discuss, and I keep meaning to discuss it, but honestly I don't know how to discuss it, because I know some people were mad when I went to Patreon, but I'm not even breaking even on YouTube. So that's why I'm there. It's a way for you to help me to be here and continue to share and give you a little extra stuff, and I'm still trying to work it out. I don't have a science to it yet. I hope to get better at it as we go forward. And like I said, I really appreciate everybody that's over there that's giving me just a little bit extra to help pay for all the things I have to pay for in order to make videos every time I make a video here on YouTube. All right, guys. So with that, don't forget, 0 is the word for the day. And I will see you very soon, because I'm actually going to upload another video next weekend, and that's because of the project. And don't forget, if you're interested in the Inktober project, check out their Instagram page if you want to learn more about it. And don't forget to follow me over on Instagram, as I'm going to start posting over there in my stories primarily. And we'll see where else I get to post, like I said. But yeah, come next Tuesday, it begins October the 1st. And I hope that you might also play along. If you do, you just do a sketch and you put in your social media hashtag Inktober or hashtag Inktober 2024, and that way everybody can see your work if you want to share it, or you can just do it for yourself. So anyways, that's pretty much it. All right, so that's today's video. I hope it was great. I hope you have a beautiful and blessed beginning to your fall. I hope it's cooler where you're at than where I'm at. I'm just waiting for those cool days. With that, I will stop rambling on, and I will see you very, very soon. Bye.